Good evening. Welcome back to the course of power system deregulation. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the activities of independent system operator in pool markets. In today's class, we will see the activities of independent system operator in bilateral markets and in particular on a time scale. So I hope that by the end of this lecture, you will be able to classify the activities of independent system operator in bilateral markets on a time scale. So first of all, let's have a quick review of bilateral markets, and then we will list out what is the role of independent system operator in bilateral markets, and then we will classify these functions on a time scale. So first of all, we will start with the bilateral transactions. We have been discussing it in the unit number 1. Bilateral transactions are contracts between sellers. The sellers can be gencos or brokers or any power marketers or etc. And the contracts will be between the sellers and the buyers. And they can take place in numerous forms. Sometimes they can be curtailable, sometimes they can be non-curtailable. So we call them as firm or non-firm. Example I will give. Let us suppose if there is a agreement of 500 megawatts from X to Y. Sometimes it may be adjusted to some 200 megawatts. If let us suppose if we request Y that there is no transmission capacity, then he may agree to receive only 200 megawatts, which means that this 500 megawatts is a curtailable transaction. So if there is no problem, then he will take 500 megawatts. If there is a problem, then he can reduce his demand. So transactions can be firm or non-firm, or sometimes they can be short-term or long-term. They may be for days or they may be for years also. Sometimes they will be for energy, and sometimes they will be for instantaneous power, or sometimes they may be for reserve capacity also. So there can be a contract between some X and Y for providing reserve capacity, which means he is already buying power from someone. In case if he doesn't provide, then he will go to X. So this is also a type of bilateral transaction. So these are the different types of transactions, bilateral transactions. Most of the times with these transactions will be evolving. So it is limited only by the ingenuity of the markets and the likelihood of making a profit. So we don't know how many new type of transactions do occur. But let us have a simple consideration that bilateral transactions or the transactions between two parties, which majorly are the sellers and buyers. And in between these transactions, the independent system operator has no role in the formation of these contracts. And the prices which are involved, ISO is independent of the prices. And the two parties, only they will discuss about the prices. But once the negotiation has been done, then comes the picture of independent system operator, because you need to transfer the power from one place to another place after agreement, and that job will be taken up by the independent system operator. Okay. Now, so what is the role of independent system operator? As seen in the last slide, it has nothing to do with the market price and with the transaction. So his role is very limited. He has no control over the market price, market clearing quantity, and the unit commitment. All the things they will be taken care by the bilateral parties. So that's why ISO limits himself to maintaining the system security and managing the congestion, if at all, if it is there in the system. So ensuring that the system is reliable, and he offers additional services if they are required. So now let's have a quick look about these functions on a time scale. Since he has nothing much to do, we will divide these things into 24 hours ahead. In 24 hours ahead, let us suppose today is 16th. So what is the job which he does on 15th and after 16th? So this is a day, scheduled day, and this is before real time. In my case, I am considering a 15th. So before real time, what he does, he gets information about the requirement of transmission lines by the bilateral parties. So he is informed for all the hour by hour transactions that are to take place the next day. Okay, these transactions will be informed to the ISO from the GENCO or any other party. So once the transactions are available to the ISO, once he gets the information, what he does, he carries out the power flow studies and other simulations. Why does he do? Because he has to provide transmission services. He has to ensure that there is sufficient transmission capacity available, and then he will offer the transmission services. If required, he also makes provision for additional transmission capacity. If at all it feels there is any requirement of additional transmission capacity or ancillary services, so he procures those services a day ahead. So these are the jobs of ISO. So he is not bothered about the market clearing price. Moving ahead, in real time, what he does, the job is simple. He monitors the system for power flows, frequency, voltage conditions, etc. In case he may interact with the regional networks and control rooms for offering his services, which we call them as ancillary services. And if at all if there are any power imbalances, he makes proper correction. So this is the job. So ultimately what he does, he ensures the system, reliability and security. This is a job which he does in real time. After real time, what he does, he has nothing much to collect because the prices have been decided between the two parties. So he does the settlement of the accounts and payments for only the ancillary service providers. So he collects only for the transmission prices and for ancillary services. So pricing will be done only for the transmission and ancillary services which he offers. Okay. So these are the functions of independent system operator in bilateral markets. Hope now you have understood what a bilateral market is and how the different transactions will be and what are the list of activities of independent system operator in a bilateral market on a time scale. In the next class, we will see about what actually the bilateral markets are and how the settlements will be done. Thank you.